After I played and beat Silent Hill 2 Remake, it was so amazing I just had to jump back in and play it again. Although this playthrough would go a little differently than normal. I wanted to unlock the trophy As Close As You Like, which you unlock by completing the game without using any ranged weapons. However, I wanted to spice it up. What if I beat Silent Hill 2 Remake while only using the chainsaw? Yes, you heard me right. The chainsaw isn't your standard weapon in Silent Hill 2. It's actually an unlockable for beating the game. Upon your next playthrough after seeing the credits, a chainsaw can be found on your way to Silent Hill. You can then pick it up and use it as a weapon, and it's a whole lot of fun. So I present to you my chainsaw fueled adventure through Silent Hill 2 Remake. So we start our journey by, well, picking up the chainsaw before we get to Silent Hill, and I was really curious to see how it controlled with the new combat system in the remake, and it controls okay, as I'd expect I guess. It does have a good amount of lunge like the other melee weapons, but it doesn't like gravitate towards enemies the same way, which can lead you to just miss your enemies completely. Aside from that, the chainsaw will one-shot any standard enemy, and it's just so visceral and brutal. Roaming through the streets of Silent Hill, unfazed by all the horrible monsters, was a really odd feeling coming from how terrified I was on my initial playthrough. After roaming the streets, I made my way through the apartments with ease. Any mannequin or lion figure that came my way got sawed into pieces. Even the tense sections where the mannequins have really good hiding spots and jump out at you wasn't too bad, although they did still scare the shit out of me a few times. But most enemies here on their own, like I said, they go down in one attack, so they're not much to bother about. Things do get a little trickier though once we encounter multiple enemies at once, as unlike the plank and pipe, the chainsaw is a kind of fixed animation deal, and it is very hard to break and cancel the animation, which in situations where multiple enemies are attacking you at once, it gets tricky. And if we're going to talk about things getting tricky while using the chainsaw, I should mention our first boss fight of the game. The first Pyramid Head fight that closes out the apartment section was a very quick battle, but was fun nonetheless. To me it seems that for bosses, you can just honestly try to do as much damage as possible. You don't really need to worry about dodging, you can just out DPS them. Although Pyramid Head didn't appreciate me doing that. When getting too close to Pyramid Head, he'll push James back with his empty hand, and even going as far as to pick James up by the throat and throw him away. A kind of get the fuck off me mechanic, which I really like. Nevertheless, I still defeated Pyramid Head and went on my way. After I picked up Maria, the game would die down for a bit. Any enemy that came at me would get sawed into pieces before they could even get their attacks off, unless there was multiple of them. That's when I'd actually have to use my brain and think about when I was going to attack and when I'm going to dodge. The same goes with the hospital section. Despite the introduction of the bubblehead nurse, they didn't give me much trouble at all. I should also mention that the reason you haven't heard any radio static during this playthrough is because I was not using it, as to unlock a separate unrelated trophy, so the chainsaw helped me feel safe without my radio. I wouldn't face any real challenge in the hospital, aside from forgetting the puzzle solutions, until I encountered the Flesh Lips boss, which is a new redesigned fight compared to the original. In the original game, we actually fight 3 Flesh Lips, however in the remake we fight just 1. However, this one Flesh Lips has more aggression than the original 3 put together. We have very limited time to attack as it emerges from the ceiling, and usually I was only able to get 1 chainsaw swing off before I snuck back up into the roof, and then when it grew its metal legs and started a more direct approach to me, I found it was the same kind of tactic I used against Pyramid Head, just attack, attack, attack. After cutting Flesh Lips into scrap metal and meat, the game would go smoothly again. Taking enemies by this stage, the game was a piece of cake, until I got to the prison section, where the mannequins started crawling along the fucking walls, and well, with my limited range, I wasn't doing anything to them. I would either have to wait for them to jump at me and dodge out of the way last second, or I would try to cut them in half as they were low to the ground. On top of all this, it's pitch black, I have no radio, so the prison was easily the most tense section of the playthrough so far. Then I encountered Angela's personal tormentor, the Abstract Daddy. A few quick chainsaw swings mixed in with a couple of smart dodges and he was done for good. Now the next time I did notice some issues was the Eddie fight. For some reason there's no real hit registration for Eddie with the chainsaw, so when you hit him it's gonna look like there's an invisible barrier around him. But if you attack him a couple of times, he should go into a second and then third phase. This boss definitely has been the hardest so far, as on top of the wonky hitbox reception, Eddie has a revolver that can send James onto his ass if it hits him, so making good use of the hanging meat sacks around is wise. However, after besting Eddie, I then ventured across to Luca Lake and was prepared to face my final 3 bosses. Something I didn't anticipate before playing the remake was that I would actually have to fight a Mandarin head on, an enemy that's only really seen in the original game under the floor, but I just rushed head first into the thing, chainsaw swinging, and well, I came out alive. After we then learn the truth about James and what happened to Mary, we must face our tormentor, the double Pyramid Head fight. This is easily my favourite section in Silent Hill history, and fighting both Pyramid Heads with just a chainsaw was definitely fun and nerve wracking. As you try to swing on one Pyramid Head, the other is trying to stab you from afar and vice versa, so you gotta be quick and smart with your attacks and know when to dodge. However, they didn't take long before conceding the fight and offing themselves. I know I'd manage, as I feel I have a good grip on the game's movement and dodging mechanics. However, the next and final fight of the whole game versus Maria/Miri would be a lot more unpredictable since she flies around, and honestly, I thought it couldn't be done melee only, considering that's the case in the original game. But then I remembered that the trophy was put into the game, so it had to be done. Maria would sometimes fly down low to the ground. This was then my opportunity to attack, even if it was only, a second or two, or I'd be able to get 1 or 2 swings off. Then she only gets easier when she transitions into ground combat. No matter how aggressive she may be in this state, now that we are on equal level, all bets are off. I ran forward, chainsaw in hand, and defeated her, putting an end to this nightmare, even sawing her in half as she called out to me, thus unlocking the trophy as close as you like. I then watched the leave ending and the credits, and just like that, my melee only run of Silent Hill 2 Remake was done.
Barry.
So that was a quick kind of run through of what it was like going melee only in Silent Hill 2 Remake, more specifically with the chainsaw, and my journey to unlock the trophy. I'd say it was pretty fun. However, I do miss the combination of firearm and melee combat, so I'm looking forward to my next playthrough where I can just play like normal. If you are maybe looking for tips, I'd just say lunge and attack everything. That always kind of worked for me. And then for bosses, you must remember the recharge time for attacks with the chainsaw is slow, and especially if you miss, so keep that in mind when fighting bosses. Don't get greedy, get your single hit in and just get out of dodge, and you'll be fine. I'm absolutely love Silent Hill 2 Remake so much. It's so much fun and it's an amazing remake, seriously. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, as I have so many more videos planned for this game. I upload when I can, I promise, I will be back. Life gets busy, so that's why I've been away a little while. Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. That's all for me now, so I will see you in my next video. Peace.